Manchester United are the greatest opening day team in Premier League history. Just let that sink in for a second. We hear a ton of debates about the most dominant forces in football, but when it comes down to the very first weekend of the season, the data makes a massive, absolute statement.
So welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to unpack exactly why this club is just so historically dominant on day one. We'll look at the raw numbers, we're going to relive some absolutely iconic, dramatic opening wins, and ultimately we'll answer the big question. Does being an opening day specialist actually mean anything for the rest of the season?
Here's our agenda for today. First, we'll look at the opening day specialists themselves. Second, the Old Trafford Fortress. Third, those most dramatic opening wins. And fourth, the unpredictable season aftermath.
Let's jump right into Section 1, Opening Day Specialists. Looking at the numbers, the gap between United and the rest of the pack is just wild. Manchester United sits at a staggering 66.7% win rate. When you compare that to massive rivals like Chelsea at 60.6% and Arsenal and Liverpool both trailing at 57.6%, the superiority on week one is crystal clear. They literally hold the highest points per game of any club with more than one match week one fixture. To put that into perspective, that 66.7% equates to exactly 22 wins out of 33 opening fixtures. 22 times they've walked away with all 3 points on the first day of the campaign. That absolutely establishes them as the undisputed opening weekend specialists of the Premier League era.
Moving on to Section 2, the Old Trafford Fortress.
To really understand this dominance, you have to look at the theater of dreams. Home advantage is a very real thing, and United have opened that home 23 times in the Premier League era. That is a massive figure. It's actually a record matched only by Arsenal. Think about this. The last time United had to travel away for an opening fixture was all the way back in the 2016-17 season, which was a 3-1 win at Bournemouth under Jose Mourinho.
So Old Trafford has practically become an absolute fortress on day one. I mean, the 2025-26 season marks the 9th consecutive season they start their campaign at home. On top of that, they boast a Premier League high of 8 opening day clean sheets. In the entire history of the Premier League, they have only lost a home opener 3 times. Just 3. That was against Everton in 92-93, Swansea in 2014-15, and Crystal Palace in 2020-21.
All right, Section 3, Most Dramatic Opening Wins.
Now we get into the absolute best part of this explainer, and our main focus for today, the unforgettable highlight reel opening wins. Because let's be honest, when United win on opening day, they don't just win, they make history. We can map out these spectacular victories across the decades. From Wimbledon in 1996 to Chelsea in 2019, these explosive, dramatic starts really define the club's aura and set massive expectations for the fans right out of the gate.
Let's kick things off with 1996. On paper, playing Wimbledon was supposed to be a pretty routine win, right? But it turned into pure theater. Just imagine being in the stadium when a young David Beckham looks up, sees goalkeeper Neil Sullivan off his line, and executes a flawless lob from the halfway line. It wasn't just a 3-0 win, it was literally the birth of a global superstar, and it remains one of the most famous goals in Premier League history.
Jumping forward a decade to 2006, you really see how this momentum builds. Here we have Wayne Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo at their absolute terrifying best. They completely dismantled Fulham in a 5-1 demolition. This wasn't just picking up 3 points. This was a violent statement of intent that perfectly set the tone for a title-winning season. It's exactly the kind of dramatic, high-scoring opener that makes fans believe the team is completely unstoppable.
Fast forward to 2010, and the vibe totally shifts. This was United's first ever Monday Premier League opener. Playing under the lights, the atmosphere is just electric. And yet, Dimitar Berbatov, Darren Fletcher, and Ryan Giggs delivered an absolute 3-0 masterclass against Newcastle. Once again, it was a dramatic, super stylish opening win that directly preceded a title-winning campaign.
Then, we have the sheer drama of 2019 against Chelsea. The stakes were incredibly high. It was Frank Lampard's very first game as Chelsea manager, and United stepped up and delivered a crushing 4-0 statement win, featuring a brilliant brace from Marcus Rashford, along with goals from Anthony Martial and Dan James. It was such an explosive start, it had the entire Old Trafford crowd roaring, believing in a new era all over again.
And bringing us right up to the modern era, you absolutely cannot forget the nail-biting tension of the 2024-25 opener. It really looked like it might end in a frustrating draw, but then Joshua Zirkzee scores this insanely dramatic 87th-minute winner on his debut against Fulham. These are the exact moments that cement United's reputation as the ultimate opening day entertainers.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 4, the unpredictable season aftermath.
But as thrilling and spectacular as these massive opening day wins are, we kind of have to pull back and look at the bigger picture here. There's this ultimate irony to the opening day. Remember that massive 4-0 demolition of Chelsea we just talked about? It felt like they were going to conquer the world, but it only led to a third-place finish. On the flip side, in 1992 and 2012, they actually lost their season openers, yet they went on to win the Premier League title both of those years.
Let's look a little closer at some of those not-so-great openers to prove it hasn't always been smooth sailing. In 92-93, Brian Deane actually scored the first-ever Premier League goal against them, and United lost 2-1 to Sheffield. In 2012, they were sunk by future United player Marouane Fellaini at Everton. And more recently, we saw that shocking 1-3 home defeat to Crystal Palace in 2020 and getting edged out 1-0 by Arsenal at Old Trafford for the 2025-26 season. Sometimes reality just hits hard.
But I really want to emphasize this point from 1992 because it is absolutely wild. Manchester United literally lost their first 2 games. They were sitting dead last at the absolute bottom of the first-ever Premier League table. Yet they somehow turned the whole shebang around and lifted the trophy at the end of the year.
So Manchester United are undeniably the kings of the opening day. They've given us the most dramatic, spectacular Week 1 moments in Premier League history. But as the data shows, setting the tone on Week 1 definitely doesn't write the whole story. So I'm going to leave you with this to ponder. Does being a king on day 1 actually guarantee you'll be a champion on day 380?